pictures eventually. I mean, if somebody wants to.
I didn't know if you wanted something.
Yeah, because he brought his parents and everybody, so I'm assuming. And I think everybody but one officer is here tonight as well.
Just take a picture of it.
Somebody should take pictures for the city.
That's what
We also have a reporter here tonight
Yeah, so,
from.
I'll second.
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. It's not going up there. Let me see if I stop recording. Nope, it didn't go up there.
No,
It didn't go up the top.
are these turned on too all the way?
Okay. Yep. Nope. Maybe I have it in the wrong.
Is there one on the other side too?
There's none on the other side.
Yeah, it's just one. It's probably just got bad connection. These cords go bad fast.
Nope.
You want a little slack?
Just for a minute.
Should we check that in? You want to check that in? Just follow that gray cord right there.
Yeah, these aren't working.
It used to not be this stretch this long, right? Well, because we used to have that thing over here, but
Sometimes those cord ends though, they just get bad. Is your mic working? Is his mic working here?
Testing. Is it
right,
working?
That's
Okay.
good, but it's not.
Hey, these aren't on either.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it's on. See?
Hello?
Yeah, we
Yeah,
can
okay.
hear you. All right. Oh, wait, it is. Okay.
We're recording.
Tough luck. Let's just,
Yep.
don't worry about it. All right, the time is now 7:02. I call to order our meeting here on October 21st, 2024. For everybody that is able to, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So I know we have a full house, so we will speak loud and proud here and make our way through. I know most of you are here for people other than the 7 of us up here. So, I mean, we will move our way through here, all right? So, roll call.
Councilmember Hall,
Here.
Councilmember Dowdy,
Here.
Councilmember Burke, Councilmember Rounds,
Here.
Councilmember Frymark,
Here.
Councilmember Houston,
Here.
Councilmember Friend.
Here.
Move
Okay.
to excuse Councilmember
Mr. Burke.
Burke.
Second.
Okay, with that, take a vote.
Councilmember Houston,
Aye.
Councilmember Frymark,
Aye.
Councilmember Dowdy,
Aye.
Councilmember Hall,
Aye.
Councilmember Rounds,
Aye.
and Councilmember Friend.
Aye.
All right, with that, he is excused. Moving into presentations and proclamations. So we have a proclamation tonight. I think we've advertised it, and hopefully we'll have a strong community presence. It's Make a Difference Day coming up this Saturday. We have multiple senior citizens that have requested services and help from community members doing yard work, painting, and things. I see lots of people here. I would hope that we would have lots of people to help our friendly neighbors. So with that, I have a proclamation. Make a Difference Day is October 26, 2024. Whereas serious social problems concern our nation and threaten in the future. Whereas connection with others and working together through volunteer service can bridge differences that separate people and help solve serious social problems. And whereas we, the American people, have a strong tradition of philanthropy and volunteerism. Whereas USA Weekend Magazine and its affiliate newspapers the Points of Light Foundation and its affiliate volunteer centers have joined together to promote an annual National Day of Doing Good that celebrates and strengthens the spirit of volunteer service. Whereas millions of self-sacrificing individuals touch and enhance the lives of millions of National Make a Difference Day by giving where there is a need, rebuilding what has been torn down, teaching where there is a desire to learn, and inspiring those who may have lost hope. Whereas volunteer service is an investment in the future we must all share. Whereas the City of Woodland has joined together to promote and nurture an annual Make a Difference Day in the City of Woodland. Now, therefore, I, Mayor Todd Deinhardt, in consultation with the Woodland City Council, do hereby proclaim October 26, 2024 as Make a Difference Day in the City of Woodland, and urge all citizens to support and observe this day by connecting with friends, fellow employees and relatives, and with religious, school, and civic groups to engage in projects that make a difference and benefit our community, dated this 21st day of October 2024. Okay, with that, I hope to see lots of us out there. Moving on to the next item, Exit 21, Kittelson and Associates. Come on up, gentlemen. Right there is fine. Get everyone up to speed. I know you're probably not most excited about this piece, but for people in Woodland, Exit 21 is a traffic nightmare for us, and we've engaged Kittelson and Associates to do a $2.6 million study on what is the best interchange and improvements for our community. The assessment will be done in 2026, and so quarterly they come and give us a update on what has happened and what they have done in the last 90 days. So I turn it over to you, sir.
Great. Mayor, city council members, members of the community, we appreciate the opportunity to come back to this community to be able to provide our quarterly update on this project. I'm going to go ahead and do a quick presentation, and my associate here, Darren Hippenstale, is also here to kind of answer questions. But really going through this quick presentation overview, because I know a lot of you are here for other reasons. Similar to last quarterly updates, we're going to provide updates and current activities, talk through the work plan and schedule, which actually hasn't changed, so we're still moving along well, and then discuss a little bit about next steps. So on some of the current activities, I think the most recent activity since we were here a couple of months ago is that we've had a fairly large coordination meeting with the Washington State Department of Transportation and FHWA. Happened about a month or so ago, and right now we do have some documents related to traffic that are currently being reviewed by WashDOT as well as FHWA. So what we're anticipating is within the next couple of weeks, actually, we'll be able to get some initial feedback, and then ultimately what we're really trying to do is work with them and the city, hopefully within the next month or two, to be able to kind of get down to a recommendation, or at least what the traffic analysis and the studies have been showing in terms of whether it's moving toward a roundabout or a signalized concept. A lot of the concepts that I know this community has been actively involved in for the last several years in terms of moving forward. Some of the ancillary or some of the other activities that we've been working on as well is the noise analysis as well as the stormwater and water quality. We've really advanced those studies to about as far as we can, at least at this point, until we nail down what that preferred alternative is. The other big milestone that we've been working on is on the geotechnical services. And Darren is going to be able to, if needed, answer some questions on this, but we actually just recently submitted what's called a Section 408 application for geotechnical drilling. So that's into the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, and we're anticipating on getting some feedback just in terms of a completeness review, hopefully within the next several weeks or so, and then we'll kind of continue to work with that. This permit's pretty important for us in the project, is that that's going to allow the team to be able to actually go out and do drillings, geotechnical drillings, soil samplings. The next slide that I'm going to show you is kind of a base map that we've already provided to the Corps of Engineers to identify where we actually want to do some of these soil samples. In addition to that, in terms of the utility coordination, we've actually completed all of our base mapping at this point, and so once we've identified that preferred alternative with the community, with WashDOT, with the city, we'll be able to move forward and utilize those base maps and start reaching out to utilities. this is the slide, and I know it's pretty difficult to read, but the graphic there shows on the left side, obviously, an aerial image of the interchange area. Where you see a lot of those, and it's a little difficult to read, we'll make sure that this information has already been provided to the city, and we can post it onto the website, as well as there's some red dots and some green dots that are posted out there. Those dots represent, at least at this point, where we as a team would like to go out and do some borings and other probes in terms of soil samples. The image to the right of it, there's a typical section of the levee. The levee is that blue line that crosses through the community. This is where a lot of the coordination is happening with the Army Corps of Engineers and the Diking District. And so the permit that I had mentioned, it's the permit to allow the team to actually physically go out and do the drilling. So that permit has been submitted. Now it's just sort of a waiting game to hear back from the Corps of Engineers. Should we get approved, which that's the plan is right now, we'll move forward with these boring examples. And there's a couple of different areas. The blue line, as I mentioned before, represents the levee line. There's a prism, and the graphic on the right is a general representation of what that prism is for the levee. And so the plan right now is to do soil samples or drillings within the levee prism and then outside of the levee prism. And this is a pretty important distinction, and this is part of our application to the Corps of Engineers. And so this is kind of what we're moving forward, at least at this point. The work plan, as I mentioned, hasn't changed. This is the same work plan that we provided a couple of months ago. We still wanted to highlight that biological assessment. That's sort of what we had provided a couple of months ago. The plan is still to try to complete that biological assessment in 2025, but for all intents and purposes, the phase 1 design and permitting and all those sub-bullets, we're still on track to complete all those, and we're currently moving on the majority of those right now. So the short end of it is that the work plan has not changed since the last couple of meetings. We're still working through the work plan at this point. And then corresponding to that, the schedule with the biological assessment hasn't changed as well. So this is probably the exact same graphic that we provided a couple of months ago, but these were kind of the more major updates that we've completed. Next steps, really hoping to wait and hear back from WashDOT, hopefully within the next a couple of weeks or so, on a lot of the traffic materials that we had submitted. And then in terms of the geotechnical, that's the Section 408 permit that we've submitted. Once we receive authorization, we'll be able to start drilling, laboratory testing, as well as the engineering analysis. And then that's going to be able to help us cascade into the structural design, cultural resource work that our team needs to complete, and then ultimately start moving forward at a pretty quick pace in terms of the environmental review and permits. Mayor, I know I went through that very quickly, but yeah, open the floor to you, the council, or community members.
I have no questions. I mean, I have dialogue, conversation a little bit more. Questions are things for the council. I mean, the most important thing here is the biological assessment. Still working on that. That is a hiccup out there. Obviously, bringing everybody to the table to have the discussion since this project's been kicking off and having WashDOT there. We don't know 100% which way it's going to go, but we're counting that we probably will have to do that biological assessment.
Well, to me, it looks like things are moving along, so I have no questions at this point.
Yep. Excellent. I appreciate it. Talk to you on Wednesday.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thanks, Mayor. Thanks, Council.
Yep.
Thank you,
And then we'll have you
community.
back here in 90 days.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it, gentlemen. Next item is citizen communications for items not on the agenda. The only one I have is Keith.
I'll just jump right here if that's okay.
Fire away, sir.
Players Days this year is the June 19th through the 22nd. The contest for the themes for the 103rd year is available. If you go to planters-days.com or to the Planters Days Facebook website, you can click on the link there and put in your entry, and you can win $100. You can enter as many times as you want. Our next meeting will be the third weekend, or the third Tuesday of next month at the VFW. The public is welcome to join in, and we'd love to have your involvement. That's all for my.
I think
Any other questions or anyone else in the audience or online for things not on the agenda that they would like to discuss?
I think Chamber has something to say.
I have Chamber on here.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Anyone else? Okay. I'm not seeing anything online. So we'll go to agenda approval.
Make a motion to approve the agenda and move action item D and E above standing reports.
So we have a motion on the floor to move, authorize the mayor to appoint Rob Gibbs as Woodland Police Chief and do his oath up into the, before reports of standing committees.
Second.
I have a second. Any issues, concerns, conversation? Carrie, you want to take a vote on that?
Councilmember Frymark,
Aye.
Councilmember Dowdy,
Aye.
Councilmember Rounds,
Aye.
Councilmember Houston,
Aye.
Councilmember Friend,
Aye.
and Councilmember Hall.
Aye.
The ayes have it. So our agenda is now approved, and we will move into authorize the mayor to appoint Rob Gibbs as Woodland Police Chief and sign a contract with Robert Gibbs. Any comments, concerns, questions from the audience? This is where we open it up. People can speak, say anything, pros, cons, make them a little nervous. Any comments? Thank you, Ms. Smith. There you go, Dad. I would like to put into the record and read a letter I received from the Woodland Police Officers Association this week. I want the community to hear. I look at the Guild as a strong unit. I look to our interim chief, our new chief here, to provide leadership, and I really found it a very interesting and really proud letter that they sent, and I think that the community should hear this. Mayor Deinhardt, this memo is being authored by the membership of the WPOA in the interest of putting our full support behind Lieutenant Robert Gibbs for the permanent position of Chief of Police. As a guild, we recognize the decision is not ours to make, but we have never shied away from advocating for one of our own. With that said, we would like for you and the council to know that we are not authoring this endorsement solely because Lieutenant Gibbs comes from our ranks. This memo is being issued because in the recent weeks that he has operated as interim chief, many of us have felt more supported, included, empowered, and respected than we have in a long time. Collectively, we have never known Gibbs to be a leader who passes the responsibility or fails to recognize the success and often dependent on positive and strong leadership. Since this has proven the case, we do not doubt that Lieutenant Gibbs will make the WPOA as well as the citizens of Woodland proud should he be given the opportunity. Please know that Lieutenant Robert Gibbs has our full support and we welcome any conversation on this matter. And it's been signed by everybody in the Guild. That is a huge sign. Questions or comments from council or anyone else here?
I just think he is the right man for the job. I think he has proven himself, and I've been very pleased with how well he has interacted and stepped up from lieutenant and even for this interim position and interacted with the community. It has just been very welcoming to see how well he's been received by our community.
Agreed.
And that we don't have to go search for someone when he's already here, so.
Agreed. Anything else?
Mr. Hall.
Mr. Hall?
I would just add to what Councilmember Houston said, that it's really good that we did not have to go through that research and find somebody outside that didn't know our community. Officer Gibbs knows the community, he knows the staff, he knows all the surrounding communities and their leadership, and he's working with them already, which we are miles ahead right now, and I appreciate him very much.
On that note, I would like to recognize individuals that are here. We have individuals that are outside of our agency. If you want to stand, if you're outside our agency, would you stand? I think people need to recognize how many individuals are connected somehow with Gibbs. Come on,
Are
don't
they
be
all-
shy, everyone. Go ahead.
On behalf of the Calvert's chaplaincy, we are so proud and honored to be able to work with Robert Gibbs under Chaplain Redfield as well as Chaplain Orr, and we are so honored to be able to work with him. We are there for you with whatever you need in your department.
I have a motion to authorize the mayor to appoint Robert Gibbs as Woodland Police Chief and sign a contract with Robert Gibbs.
Second.
With that, Carrie?
Councilmember Houston,
Aye.
Councilmember Rounds,
Aye.
Councilmember Hall,
Aye.
Councilmember Dowdy,
Aye.
Councilmember Freimark,
Aye.
and Councilmember Friend.
Aye.
With that, the ayes have it. Congratulations. We will sign a contract, Mr. Gibbs, and come on up and let's do our oath, and then we'll do some pictures.
Am I going to?
Let me be the first to say congratulations. I look forward to the partnership. These last 90 days, 60 days have been great. I really appreciate everything you've taught me about, the police department. So, with that, I state your name.
I, Robert Gibbs,
Do solemnly swear,
do solemnly swear,
affirm that I will support
affirm that I will support
the Constitution
the Constitution
and the laws of the United States,
and the laws of the United States,
the Constitution
the Constitution
and the laws of the State of Washington,
and the laws of the state of Washington,
and the laws of the City of Woodland,
and the laws of the city of Woodland,
and all local ordinances,
and all local ordinances,
and that I will faithfully
and that I will faithfully
and impartially perform
and impartially perform
and discharge the duties of the office
and discharge the duties of the office
of the Police Chief of City of Woodland,
as the police chief of the city of Woodland,
according to the law,
according to the law,
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
Congratulations. No pressure, Misty. Relax. Come on, family. This is where we do pictures, and all the other law enforcement are going to come up here. Come on. Hopefully, this is a one and done police chief for him, and he'll be here the rest of his career. Come on, Mom and Dad. Oh, he might as well bring it. Okay, get the whole family in there now. If you're a family member of the Gibbs, get your family up here. This is your chance. All right. Woodland Police Department. Come on up. Donnie, Joey, let's go. Are you right? No. I'm done. Is it your first day? Congratulations. Okay, you're all gonna have to squeeze in like you know each other. All right, if you're in a law enforcement position, I would like you to picture yourself here. How often are you? You are all in this together. I mean, you're here. Let's go, Jacob. Let's go.
You gotta watch that. You gotta watch that Terry Casey guy. Aren't they not supposed to have the whole police department in the same building at the same time?
They don't allow them on airplanes together.
Do a funny face. Never.
Thank you, Donnie. Thank you, Joey. Thank you, Rick. Thank you. Anyone want a picture with our new famous chief?
So Jacob works for Tumwater PD, right?
Yep.
We were in the same academy class.
So why were you not in that last picture?
He was.
Oh,
He came
okay,
up
good.
for it. Good?
All right, speech.
Ready? You know, I just love photo ops. Oh, yeah. So long ago. Sure. Good?
Congratulations.
All right.
Your hand's sweaty.
I know.
A lot of people's left. You want to speak in a few words, though, really quick.
Sure. For those that can hear in the back, first off, I just thank God for this opportunity because obviously if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be here. Next, my family. Try not to get emotional. You know, I wake up every day and I try to be the best father, son, husband, sibling, big brother that I can be. And this is all part of that, so I wouldn't be standing here right now if it wasn't for my wife, my parents, my brothers, my sister who couldn't be here tonight. So obviously, and then most importantly, everybody's making a big what for about me tonight. And let's be honest, this isn't about me. This is about the officers that stood up here. And that's who I represent, that's who I work for. And I will come here every day to earn the respect. I will be accountable, and I will serve those officers and this community to the best of my ability. And I just want to say thank you to the Woodland Police Department because they're the ones that deserve the real round of applause. Thank you.
This place is about to get empty.
Yes, you can go.
All right. Thank you, everybody that attended and showing support and for sharing this individual with our community. Let him hug his family goodbye. All right. Okay, let's go back to our agenda now. It's reports of standing committees. Public safety.
That will be me. All right, so tonight we met at 5:32. Chief Gibbs, Councilmember Hall, Councilmember Rounds, and myself were in attendance. Tonight we had Bryce Livesay. Today was his first day. He will start the academy December 16th. He was entry level and he lives in the center, so not too far from us. We currently will still have 2 open positions. Officer Kelly is still on light duty through November 22nd, and then we will be reevaluating that one. And then we had 3 shields that we had ordered earlier this year, and they were 2 heavy duty, like 40-pound shields. So we ended up sending them back. The company worked really well with the department, and all we had to do was pay for shipping, and we were able to exchange them for 9 lightweight rifle shields. And so for our 3 that we originally got, we now have 9. So almost every car has a shield that it's able to have in it all the time. So that was great. The officers are interested in having a wellness program, and when researched, it looks like we have to check back in the spring to get that started. So that will be something coming up in the spring. And we adjourned at 5:55, and our next meeting will be November 18th at 5:30.
Excellent. Any questions about public safety meeting? Discussion, conversation there? Okay. HR?
Yes, that's me too. So we met at 6:02. The mayor and Councilmember Friend, myself, and Councilmember Hall. We're all in that meeting. And then tonight we talked about the code enforcement and the building side of things is being merged into one position, and right now it is vacant. Labor negotiations for the clerk and public works labor all start tomorrow. The mayor is looking to combine into one union instead of 2 separate union contracts, and it currently expires December 31st. And we ended our meeting at 6:16.
Any questions on HR?
And
And
our
then-
next meeting will be the same date.
And then finance is on here. I messed up, shame on me. There was miscommunication and I take accountability, so I apologize. So there was no finance meeting tonight.
Correct.
So I apologize. Any questions from the audience or anyone about standing committee meetings? Okay, reports of city council.
We had the Rotary banquet at Summit Grove Lodge Saturday evening. It was well attended, and I think everyone had a really good time, and we raised some money for the park. So
Excellent.
great.
It was a great
Yeah,
event.
those of us who were there can attest to that. Was a great event, and you didn't say anything about the Rotary receiving the district governor's award.
that's correct.
That is not average. That is
No,
a
it's not.
tremendous
That is correct.
recognition. Thanks to all the Rotarians, and I think Darlene should get a round of applause for what she's done on that. But it's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
So good.
Thank you, Terry.
And I believe it was well attended by individuals up here, so
yes.
that's good news. Any other items from city council?
I just want to remind everybody to vote. We have a really important election coming up, and everybody just don't forget to do that.
Agreed.
Yep.
Ballots are out, and there's a drop box over by City Hall there on 2nd and Davidson in the city lot. Okay.
One other thing we should mention is there was a big week in Woodland. We had a grand opening of the library, so
Oh,
pretty
yes,
awesome thing.
on
So
Saturday.
big things happening.
Yep. Agreed. Any other items? Okay, reports of advisory committees. Chamber, I see several individuals from the chamber.
I'll
Hey, how are you doing, sir?
Good. It's written down, so it's easy. So based on the previous council meeting, it appears that there's some current concerns from the city council about the operations of the chamber. We're not really sure where those concerns have originated, but we'd be very happy to meet with city representatives to get clarification, and whenever it's convenient, we're open to meet and discuss. In the meantime, the chamber has and continues to experience relatively successful results. As of right now, we're currently averaging about 1 new member a week. We are continuing on with the success from our previous executive director. Continuing on with the success of Carrie as executive director, we've continued to expand and grow the operations of the chamber. And that while we continue to do that, we've continued to keep the visitor center open 6 days a week, while minimizing labor costs and reducing overhead expenditures. In addition, we recently completed a successful golf tournament in partnership with the city's only golf course, bringing in $9,000, which further funds the visitor center operations. All of this continues the chamber's tradition and commitment in supporting tourism and the business environment within Bloomington. Thank you.
Absolutely. Questions on that? I'm looking over at my friend Melissa because, I mean, when you said there was conversation, so I'm like, Melissa, any questions, comments on that?
Well, I know that you guys had in the past asked for $40,000, and I know when originally you guys were talking about asking for 50, it was because we had said that you could bump your amount up if you were choosing to move into the civic center, that would kind of cover the expense of moving into the visitor center, or to the new civic center. And so that was kind of the reason why we had discussed it bumping.
Okay. Can I speak to that specifically? As the treasurer.
So, the ask of the chamber over the last probably 5 to 7 years, and the former treasurer can confirm this, has always been between 50 and 60. We dropped it 1 year about 4 years ago because LTAC was a little shy, so we dropped it and covered the difference. Our ask last year was 50 grand, and I'm pretty sure our ask in the prior year was 50 grand. It's been consistent, and we've never made any statement that additional funding would be used for this civic center. That was never brought up. Like I say, our ask this year is exactly the same as it was last year.
Okay. Well, I just know that our LTAC money that has been approved this year is more than we have coming in. So that's what.
That's a conversation I would say you need to have with the committee.
Right. I understand that. So that was something we had discussed in the past, was in negotiations at some point, that it had been discussed about that somehow being brought in. But that's fine. I understand what you're saying. So.
Those conversations were not with the chamber. That was between council and the committee, not with the chamber.
I understand what you're saying.
And it wasn't the whole council.
No.
That was-
There were discussions we had had out here when having conversations with, like, chamber, like, when they were coming and talking to us and wanting to have conversations about being in the building. It was
Yeah.
meetings during this time that we had talked about ways that they could come up with money.
At the end of the
discussed in
day,
these
I mean,
meetings, but yes.
I don't want to speak for chamber. The chamber isn't moving into the civic
Yes.
building. I mean, I've heard that
So
they're
no,
moving
that's-
other direction, which is fine, and away we go. I think it's kind of a separate conversation. Is my view here is, you know, LTAC. If the LTAC committee said this is the dollars and is too much, you know, if we have I'd have to go look at the budget report. There's more money being distributed out than money that's coming in. Again, that's a discussion that council can have when we approve the budget or not, kind of a deal. But I mean, that there is separate. I was trying to get here you addressed something that there was discussion, and I was just like, okay, let's have a discussion here, kind of a deal. So, I think you had something else you were going to say before I. Okay, got it. Any other conversation? Any other things from chamber before I open it up to others in the room, or any other items from the council?
We're more than willing to, as the board and executive committee for the chamber, we're more than willing to have these conversations and speak, but that's a thing that needs to be set up, but not just inferred.
Yeah, I mean,
And we're excited to meet. So
yeah.
we've been in partnership for 30 years.
100% agree. I guess I'm going to just jump into it and, have my view here is last council meeting, I believe it was the last council meeting, I'm trying to remember the dates.
It was.
Melissa brought up the idea, there was a little bit of dialogue here. I took the direction of the council. I mean, I didn't come with the idea. I didn't leave here with an idea. I just listened to council. I didn't put any changes into a budget or anything on that. I didn't do any analysis. The direction was, hey, away we go. So I appreciate you coming here, and if there's going to be dialogue or conversation, I'd, welcome any and all conversation to happen there. So, totally agree. Okay. Any other questions on that? Any other items from staff on reports of advisory committees or pieces? Okay. I don't see anything online. I'm going to go into reports of city officers, the mayor. Couple items here and a few things I want to go through for the council and also for the audience here. Can you click on the first budget message? This is you, Travis. It's all about you, sir. So October 7th, I put out a memo here about the budget. Most important, I know there's neighboring cities that have had to raise taxes and different things. I am pushing for no new tax increases, forgo our 1% property taxes, and you can see some of the deferrals and different things that are there. Last council meeting, they deferred the rate increase on the water that was scheduled for this November. But I just want to make people aware of that memo that is out there, that is attached to the agenda. Next item is the budget calendar as we move to create our 2025 budget. Here's our calendar. So if you move down, we're into October 14th and 28th. There's workshops if we need them, if they're necessary, depending on budgets. I have plenty of budget pieces in here. I think if we need to have budget additional meetings outside of the council, I think we could move those to November. We have some dates in there. So I don't know that I would hold a meeting on the 28th. The 14th, finance, there was items that were published in the newspaper about public hearing on property taxes. So the November 4th meeting, we'll talk about property taxes, whether or not council wants to raise property taxes 1%, or if they want to forego that. State law allows us to raise it up to 1%, which is about a $10,000 increase across the city. So I want people to be aware of that budget calendar that is out there. Any questions or comments on that?
I have a question.
Fire away.
So if we defer the 1%, next time, do we have to add that? Will it be 2% instead of 1 or?
Nope.
No, okay.
It's just 1% annually is the most you can get.
All right.
So, okay. Fire
If
away.
we do end up having a meeting on November 11th, it would actually be November 12th.
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, my bad. Good point. November 11th is Veterans Day. Okay. All right. Proposed budget for October 2021. So here is very similar to what was out there last month, or 2 weeks ago, I should say. It's a balanced budget. Revenues equal expenditures. We'll get into the details here in a couple presentations. But this here gives everybody visibility to what was our 2022 actuals, 2023 actuals, what the original 2024 budget, what we spent year to date through June, what we're proposing for 2025, and our variance between 2025 budget and the 2024 budget. just to give people full visibility of what we are as the dollars that are happening there. And you can see every line is in that budget, 18 pages worth. So we will get into the detail as we go over that. So again, I want individuals to be aware of what is out there and how we are spending all of our dollars inside the city limits. Okay? I want to spend about 5 minutes now on this next one, which is our preliminary budget, before we get into our budget meeting next month. So here out there is attached is a City of Woodland 2025 preliminary budget. Next slide, please. So fund balances. Very fundamental, basic here as a fund. If I have $100 today, and if I only spend $80 in 2024, I can carry over $20 into next year. So then I would start with $20, and then I would build it up. So a fund balance is really your carryover because we're a cash entity and how we move our dollars and keep going from one year to another. So I went back and I show here what our fund balance is: the general fund, park fund, street fund, and general reserve fund. Park fund, street fund, and the general reserve fund are really ultimately $0 funds. You might have less than $50,000 that carries over from one year to another in the park and the street, but those are predominantly 99.95% funded out of our general funds. So I combined those together so that we can look and say, hey, what are we doing as a city? So you can see in our general fund, we had about $2.4 million at the end of 2020. HARPA dollars, COVID dollars kicked in 2021 and 2022, or that took us up to $5.3 million. Then at the end of 2023, there was about $2 million left in those fund balances. So in the last 8 months, 9 months here, since I've been mayor, you can see our forecasting. I'm forecasting at the end of this year, we'll have increased our fund balance by about $700,000, which means our city employees have done a great job cutting back spending and doing what is diligent. So if you look at what the budget was and where we're headed, so you have about $700,000 increase. But then when you get to 2025, you say, well, wait a minute, Mayor, you're spending about $400,000 more. Your fund balance is going down. We'll get into that budget as we go through. 99% of that is the police department. So I want to spend, and my proposal has $300,000 to $400,000 more there. I think that we're completely underpaying our officers. If you look at a couple different departments, they're about 20% lower here. That's why we constantly have 3 to 4 openings. At the same time, I would like to add a couple officers into the department so that we can always have 2 individuals on a duty. Right now, there are times where we only have 1 person. I got somebody on the east side calling, and there's something going over on the west side. It just does not make sense for our community. So that's the reason that goes down by about $300,000. And then there's also some money in there for a new foundation over at the community center that needs to be done. There's a new roof at the Horseshoe Lake Park shelter that's down there that needs to be done. So that there's a story to be told there, but you can see, I mean, our coffers are still about $300,000 or $400,000 higher than they were starting at the end of this year. Okay, any questions or comments on that? Again, we will get into our budget in November. I just want people to start thinking about, hey, what are we doing and how are we spending our money at the City of Woodland? Because again, this is all of our money, not just mine. Water fund, so water is its own fund as well. 99% of the money that goes into the water, it comes from our water rates that we charge residents. So you can see 2020 had 500,000, 2021 we had 900,000, then at 2022 we dropped to 255,000, and then we started raising our rates. There's an adjustment in there in 2023. Rainy Well project, we received dollars that were in there, but the project was actually done in 2024, so it makes it a little wonky. So I, straightened that all out, and you can see. So at the end of 2023, we had about $1 million, and then we increased it to about 1.8 million. At the end of 2025, about 1.2 million. So you sit there and say, hey, what are we doing there? Again, we start paying for our projects, the Reservoir 4, the filtration system 3 and 4. Those loans that we took out here in 2023, they come to due. We need to start paying for those. At the same time, we start building up a fund, the Rainy Well project that you can see we spent $800,000 this year. Every 4 years we need to do that. So we're building up a fund and setting aside dollars for that. So when we get to 2027, we don't have to take out a loan. We can have $200,000 each year put to that. So again, rather than just not budgeting for it 4 years down the road and making our fund look higher, Riley put in those dollars. And so we'll get into that conversation. And so that 1.2 is really setting us up long-term here. Okay? Sewer. Sewer, you can see, is very healthy. The sewer fund, $2.6 million in 2020. At the end of 2024, I'm forecasting to be about $5.1, $5.2 million. At the end of 2025, you can see it goes down $2 million. There is waste treatment, biosolids, sorry, I couldn't think of it, biosolids for about $1.5 million that we need to do in 2024, 5. And again, by using our fund balance that we have, rather than having to go out and take a $1.5 million loan, we have the money and we have the resources to do it. So it goes back down to 2023 levels. Again, watching our dollars and doing things like we have this past year, we were able to really support that without, raising the sewer rates. Okay? Any questions on sewer?
I'm just glad that that fund is flush.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. I got that. Next one. So here is then you look and say, okay, where all of our revenues come from? So previously we would just show, okay, it's $37 million, but I thought it was pretty important here. I know you can't really see this, but again, it's in the packet. You can go online, you can look at this and you can see, okay, where's all our, $37 million. We had $33 million in 2022. 2025, I'm estimating to be $37 million. Why are we about $4 million higher in 2025 than 2024? A couple different things. So cost of goods sold out there, where we get sales tax, 3%. So if you increase the cost of what we're paying for items, you're still paying your 8% sales tax. So it's a little bit higher there. There's also included in the 2025 budget is our impact fees. We are projecting, and we've got information that we'll get into when we do the budget. We have budgeted specifically impact fees on the number of houses that we think are going to be built. So then we'll know over or under our impact fees. So obviously more houses are being built in 2025 than what we had in 2024 as those subdivisions out on the east side here are getting done. So that just gives you an idea of what it is. So if you look at the $37 million, we have a balanced budget where we're looking to spend $37 million. Here's our expenditures, voila, 37,082, 737. And you can see where some of these dollars are going, the general fund. And if you look at the general fund, we spend about $10 million there. 39% of that is our police department. So, okay. Any questions on that? You can see where it is, and we will get further into detail. And that 18-page report, I will walk you through when we get into the budget how you'll be able to say, wait, general fund, and I'll show you. Whoop, these lines all here go into the general fund. Whoop, these all lines go into long-term. LTGO is long-term general obligation. So I really want the community to understand where your money is going. Okay? General fund. Moving right along here, this shows high level where the 2025 budget is, $10 million. You can see where our revenues are. Sales tax is 29%, $10 million. We don't need to get into all that. We'll go later, but again, I want people to be able to see this report. Here's your expenditures, same thing. You can see where our $10 million out of the general fund goes, our percentages, and you can see right there, there's the police department at 37.4% in 2025. And you can see over the far right, just so people know, legislative, people are like, okay, what's legislative? That's city council. Executive, that is myself, and that is inter-company agent or local agencies like CW COG and some of those different agreements. So don't think that the mayor is making 27,000. The mayor has a budget of $5,000. So, and then away we go down the clerk, treasurer, legal, and all of those things, okay? Park revenue, you can see their funds come out of the general fund, and you can see they're $575,000. So we really do not spend a fortune on a lot. And you can see where we get 84% of the dollars come from the general fund. You can see where we get some of the dollars for fees, rentals, special events, and those things. If anyone has questions, just stop me. Otherwise, I'm going to keep moving along. Park fund, here's where we spend our $575,000. You can see $185,000 is salaries. And then 44% of that is repairs, and you can see where we put it repairs for $257,000. That's the community center, putting a new floor in, and also putting in a new roof. Again, obviously these things need to go to council for approval, but this is where, working with staff, we really think we need to do those things, and we'll get into further detail. Next slide. You went backwards. Street fund. Here's where our street dollars come from. $1 million is what we go. The thing that I want people to understand here, so when we did South Pekin and those things, that doesn't come out of street fund here. We go for grants. So street fund, we would pay the match if we got a grant of $700,000 and we have to pay a 10% match of $70,000. We would pay it out of here, but then we would have the grant. Riley has done a nice job on this budget this year where we are not budgeting and assuming that we've received grants. That's one of those things that really messed up. And if you look at those fund balances, budget versus actual, we got tripped up. We assumed we were going to get grants and they didn't come to fruition. So we have put the dollars in here to assume that we will pay the match. And if by chance we don't get the grant, those would just be dollars that we will have later on. But we have not assumed any revenue or windfall of a grant. So very realistic, and we'll get into the four.
But we are applying for grant.
100%. They
Okay.
work.
Okay.
Catherine and his organization does a great job. Our contractor that bills straight through writes them.
Okay.
So, yep,
Okay.
100%. Next, there's our expenditures where you can see, you know, salaries and benefits. Again, 45% of that. You get a little bit of repairs, travel, training, safety, kind of a deal. Okay, and we'll get into the details of that. Next slide. Water revenues, you can see 58% of our water revenue comes from water sales, and then big 40% of that comes from the beginning fund balance. So again, water sales is $2.7 million, but we don't spend all of that, and we need to build up our fund balance. And you can see tax on water sales and those things. So that's where we get our revenue. $2.7 million is where we charge our residents for water usage. Then here is where we spend our expenditures. And it ties right back to the other. And you can see 18% of that is labor and benefits to have somebody available 24/7 to run the water. Okay? Sewer, same type of deal. Here's our beginning fund balance, and then you can see our sewer sales, and we'll have $7.5 million of revenue there. 68% of that becomes from our beginning balance, and then sewer sales, that becomes from our sales to our residents. Next slide. And here's where we spend our $7.4 million, and you can see repairs and maintenance for $2.5 million. We're able to go out and do that without taking a loan. $1.5 million of that is the biosolids item that we will go through. Okay? With that, I just wanted people to be aware of what I am proposing for a budget. I appreciate the staff members that are sitting over here. Amanda isn't here to work where she worked on her clerical, but Carrie, Trish, all of these individuals have worked diligently to come through and have assessment, and I will have all of them go through their individual budget and walk through their ownership of that. But as a consolidated, I wanted people to understand of where we are at as a city. I know there's a lot of conversations of other cities that are laying off, they're having shortfalls and different things like that. We are having a balanced budget and are being successful. Thank you to all of you for running tight ships in your organizations. Questions, comments on Mayor's message before I move on?
I want to just say thank you for the pie charts. I think that really helps the community understand the income and expenses
The
of the
visual,
city.
yes.
Very visual. Appreciate it.
Okay, yep. And if there's recommendations from the audience or anyone has questions or comments, feel free to reach out. Again, I can't stress this enough. This is your money. You all have a say. Next, go ahead. Oh,
I'm just going to say, one thing I've heard from the community is where does the money go, right? You have the money, where are we spending it at? And so if anybody's in the audience that has heard somebody in the community ask, I think this is a great opportunity to say, hey, you can check out the agenda, you can come to a council meeting, we're showing where the money is coming from and where it's going to. So just to throw that out there.
They could even print it off if they wanted off the internet, so.
Stand up, just because I know you, stand up and say it loud and proud. Come on.
I know that with all the building, there's lots of building permits. Is any of that money go into any of these categories?
So you're going to get into a little bit here, and Travis is going to go, oh, here we go. So you got planning that then goes over into building. So planning is you got your vacant lots. Building is, hey, I got houses and I need to do permits. So we were heavily over the past few years into the planning. Now we're heavily into the building. So when you get into the planning side, we have about $40,000 of planning fees and things that we think we're going to project. So that's why when you heard Melissa give on her report about code enforcement and the permit tech who left, Travis came to me and says, well, maybe we could combine these positions, Todd, because the planning has cut down. And he goes, you've obviously seen the budget. And I'm like, yeah, there's only $40,000 there of work, but yet it's going to cost $100 and some thousand. So Travis, thinking outside the box, let's try. Obviously, I need to negotiate with the union because one position is represented, one position is non-represented, and we'd like to combine them. So then when you get over into the building, and we will have a slide that gets into that, I've created a whole sheet that goes through all of our assumptions and how many permits we think we will do and what the cost per permit is and all of that. Some permits are, you can spend the money. It's a revenue generator for us. We can use it. But once you get into the impact fee, there's only certain things you can do with that. So like streets, for example, has to be for new construction. Parks has to be for new parks. It can't be to do a repair. We can't use park impact fees to go replace the roof down at the park. We would have to build a brand new structure, something of that. So we will totally get into those pieces, and Travis will get into it with his budget. Did you have something you wanted to correct me on, sir? So. Thank you. Okay. Great question. Any others? Okay. Public Works Appraisal Report on Davidson Street. Riley, you want to jump into that one?
Yeah, absolutely. So on August 19th council meeting, Resolution 793 put forth to the council the proposal to for the proposed sale of the Public Works Office, 236 Davidson Avenue. It was voted amongst the council that to move forward with that potential sale, and it was a recommendation from council to bring forward the proposal that was received for the estimated value of 236 Davidson. So we did receive that report back. The appraisal came back at 460,000. So that was kind of right there in the middle between 450, 495, where we kind of thought it would be placed. So with council's approval, we'll move forward with the listing of the space, and we'll bring back any associated possible sale back to council for full approval.
What did we pay for the building?
We paid $420 for it.
$420, okay. So by the time you pay commission, we'll probably go in the hole on it.
So that is just the estimated value at the 460,000. I believe last time I checked, we were around 360,000 currently owing on the building. So
yeah,
it would
but
be
whether we owe on it or not, we paid 420
420, correct.
Yeah, 420.
Yes.
So what I'm saying is it could be a loss by the time we pay to have the commission to have it sold.
And that's, yes, and once we do get a bid on it, or, a possible sale agreement, we would then bring that back to council for approval before we move forward.
Hey, Carol, I'm gonna call it like it is.
Okay.
It's a loss.
Yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day, if we sell it because of the improvements, I mean, we took the kitchen that was in there, we put hold improvement, I mean, there's things that we have done to it. So ultimately,
So really, it was more than 420. By the time you got to
420
it.
was the sales price, and then when
Right.
you put
And that appraisal
tenant
is-
improvements and things in
Right.
there for, yes,
Right.
absolutely agree.
That's on the very high end of that appraisal too,
Yeah.
I think.
Right.
Yeah. So,
And so I think the key here, and this is my view, and council, you said to go through with this, and obviously before we sign any documents, we would come back here. My view here is if we owe $360 on it, if we can clear $360 and get rid of that loan, it saves us future payments. At what point do you cut bait with it here? We're paying utilities, we're paying, for a building and maintenance and things for a building that we really don't need. I look at, 4 of you out of the 5 that are sitting there. Can we all fit into the same one building? I mean, I'm looking for honesty. If you disagree, say, no, we can't.
No, I think it would be a great idea to have us all back in the same building. I mean, having us all back together, it just makes things flow a lot nicer, gets everybody back in the same flow of things. So I think it's a good idea to consolidate us back into one building.
I do definitely think that we need to list it with a actual commercial realtor.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
and then when that's done, it'll come back before the council, before the sale.
Correct. Before we sign a sales agreement, it has to come back for council approval. So, I mean, it might be a price that you guys don't want to sell it for, and you say no.
Right.
But yeah.
Okay.
So, previously was authorized was to list it,
Right.
and the expectation was
And
before
get
you
it-
list
get
it,
an
we would like to
appraisal.
see an
Yeah.
appraisal. So
Right.
we've done that, we're gonna
Okay.
list it, and it'll come back once
We'll
we
get bring
get
it,
it.
so the offer will come, we'll have to agree on the offer. Okay.
Yep, 100%. Mr. Hall?
I'm assuming this is a standard commercial appraisal.
117
Normally,
pages.
those include an estimate on an income basis, and then they also include a section, I haven't seen the
It's
appraisal, so I don't-
117 pages, it has everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's the income section, then there's a highest and best use section. I'm not sure what else they put in that thing, but what my question really is based on the current interest rates in our environment and the current level of business, they've made those income estimates. I'm wondering now if we should hold off a couple of weeks until after the election. We may have a different interest rate environment, and we may have a different business climate, and it may seriously affect that income section of that appraisal. That's just my thought.
And that's a good point too, but the estimated sale date is between 6 to 9 months. That's about the market is doing right now currently, so.
For how long it takes to sell it, you're saying?
Correct.
Yeah.
Just needs to go.
Yeah, but I guess what my concern is if we list it for 460 and then we have some changes in the environment, it may be worth more. And I would hate to be selling it for more of a loss than we need to take. That's my point.
That's a good thought, Terry.
Todd, what's the rough estimate of what we're spending per month outside of principal pay down? But I mean, we have to consider interest cost, utility cost. And so even if we could have a small upside in 9 months, that's 9 months of fees. And then from there, it's probably another 6 to 9 months. So now
About $20,000 a year.
So
between-
that's
right,
gonna
between now
eliminate any
and-
upside then, right?
And I have not put in the budget any expenditures or any assumptions of it being sold. So, again, if we could get it sold, I don't see anything wrong. If you wanna wait 2 weeks, I mean, what's another 2 weeks to put it on the market, decide, I mean, listen to the broker and say, hey, listen, this is our estimate.
I don't think it's gonna hurt to wait
No.
2 or 3 weeks either, and then list it. I think that's a good idea.
Yep.
But you can always change the price too down the road. You don't have to. You can start high and bring it down also. You can always change the price at any time.
And the appraiser would have an opportunity to make
The broker.
recommendations based on all that, so.
Is a motion required at this point to list it, or?
Nope, this is
it's
just
already-
a total
No, correct.
visibility to let you know, hey, what did the appraisal came back? The action item previously was approved to, list it, and one of the comments in that was come back with an appraisal.
Right.
And so we did, and we wanted to make sure that you knew that, and then, again, before anything is signed on the dotted line as far as a sale, it would be brought back here, and you could approve or deny it.
I also think another thing to kind of keep in mind with the sale of 236 Davidson is not only to consolidate public works into one building, but also give an opportunity for another business to be downtown and occupy that space. So trying to create that foot traffic to the downtown where we desperately
Hopefully we
need it.
will get more business down there,
Yes,
so, and not be another vacant building sitting there.
yes.
So,
I have a question. What was the cost of that appraisal?
The cost of the appraisal was $2,900. Appraisal.
Okay. We could recoup some of that back too if you sell it soon enough. The buyer can use that appraisal if it's within a certain amount of time, so.
Yep. So, any other comments or questions on that building? Mr. Brown? Okay, you and I, says like, come on. If you had a question, fire away, sir. Okay. All right. With that, moving into consent items.
Motion to approve consent items, or motion to approve the minutes of October 7th.
second,
With that, Carrie?
Councilmember Rounds.
aye.
Councilmember Friend.
Aye.
Councilmember Frymark.
Aye.
Councilmember Hall.
Aye.
Councilmember Dowdy.
Aye.
And Councilmember Houston.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Before we move into the action items, I'd like to go back to the upcoming items. Remind people of the 26th is the Make a Difference Day. Trick or Treat in the Streets is the 31st. 100 Davidson will be open there. There'll be businesses that'll be giving out trick or treat candy. City Council meeting is on the 4th. Planning Commission on the 21st. City Council meeting on November 18th. And then also, the Senior Enrichment Group Thursday night is doing a fundraiser at Burgerville. If you tell them that you're there for the Senior Enrichment Group, they will give 10% of their proceeds, or I believe it is, to the Senior Enrichment Group. So Thursday night is Burgerville night for them. Okay? With that, we'll move into action items. Go ahead.
Go ahead, no, go ahead.
Action item F, approve the vouchers.
Make a motion to approve ordinance number 1434.
A motion to approve the vouchers.
Oh, sorry.
Second.
Second,
With that, any questions, comments about the vouchers in the agenda? Fire away, Carrie.
Councilmember Houston.
Aye.
Councilmember Friend.
Aye.
Councilmember Hall.
Aye.
Councilmember Dowdy.
Aye.
Councilmember Frymark.
Aye.
And Councilmember Rounds.
aye.
The ayes have it. Moving into action item G, ordinance number 1434, panhandling, first reading. I will open it up if there's any comments from anyone online or anyone in the audience that would like to address the panhandling ordinance that is brought before us. Any discussion from council on panhandling?
I think it needs
I
to be done.
I appreciated the clarity of these. These were well-written ordinances, I thought, for clarity.
Emily has done extremely good work, I think, with staff over here. I know that we've had several conference calls with her, making sure that this is something that aligns with what we are hearing from the community and what is defensible. So, any other conversation from council about the panhandling first reading?
Now I'll make a motion to approve action item G, ordinance number 1434, panhandling, first
Second.
reading.
Second.
And I have a second. Carrie.
Councilmember Friend,
Aye.
Councilmember Houston,
Aye.
Councilmember Hall,
Aye.
Councilmember Dowdy,
Aye.
Councilmember Rounds,
Aye.
Councilmember Frymark.
Aye.
And the ayes have it. We will come back with a second reading next meeting. Moving into action item H, ordinance number 1435, prohibited camping, first reading. Any conversations from the audience or anyone online regarding prohibited camping inside the city limits?
I do, and they don't. I have something I was wondering.
Any comments questions from the audience? Council.
I was just wondering if they could do the first offense just be a warning, and then the second offense, instead of just fining them automatically, could we do something like a community service, and then on the third time, then do the $250 fine, so it's not just $250 right out of the gate.
Are they going to show up to do community service?
Hopefully.
I thought in the last meeting too, we did discuss having a warning at least, and this goes straight to fine on first offense of $250 even, and that seemed steep for someone that we arguably don't think can pay.
I mean, at some point, we have to do something to make it so that the officers.
Right.
Sure.
Here, you're gonna have community service. The officers, we've been dealing with quite a bit. I'm not saying we. I'm looking at, Chief over here because he's getting all my calls from him over the last 7 days on various things. It's picked up. We had an individual that was out in front of the roundabout over by a Walmart,
They keep moving the sidewalk.
26-year-old.
They were over by
And
the high school the other day.
there's a couple people camping at Safeway too right now.
Right, and again, and that's why, go ahead, Chief.
One, I'll talk about the recent transient person we've had in town that probably came up by Walmart in the roundabouts. He was actually arrested today. A mother and her 15-year-old daughter called in because he was masturbating in the roundabout in public, facing traffic. So officers contacted him and took him to jail for indecent exposure. I will agree to a point that maybe a warning instead of a fine on first contact is appropriate because they're not going to pay the fine anyways. However, I still think that the first contact's a warning, the second one is go to jail. Obviously, depending on what they're doing, and if they're committing a crime, they just go to jail for that. But I don't know how we recoup these fines as a city either if we're going to give a fine to a person who is walking around with a bag to their name. But yeah.
At least with community service, you get some labor out of it.
Hey, Emily. Emily, do you want to, you guys can't hear her, can you? Well, here, let me do this. Emily, can you touch on the fine and that piece there and going that route with our campers?
Sure. There's not a lot of enforcement mechanisms that the city has, and so that's really unless you want to go a criminal route, really the only enforcement mechanism that a city has to utilize your codes. And so and while you can, it's a lot of times those things are either officer discretion to not issue the citation, which would be a warning, or occasionally a judge can waive that with just the court costs that are there. So there are different mitigating factors that are not just the fine that's listed in the code, but without some sort of teeth, the code is fairly meaningless.
Perfect, thank you.
So an officer could issue a warning even though we do this here. So, yeah.
And if it's someone who's being a
Right.
pain, then
Exactly.
you go right to
So,
fining them if they're.
I'm good with this then.
And that's the discussion Emily and I have been having. That's why I asked her to kind of chime in here. Because last meeting, we did go
Right.
down
We
this whole
were-
rabbit,
yeah.
and so when
Right.
we took it offline afterwards, we could come back, I mean, we have to do something.
We do have to
Let
do
the
something.
officer make the discretion of whether
Right.
they want to fine them
Right.
or give them a warning.
Right.
I like the way it's worded. I like the way that it's structured. And I think that we need to get this in place.
Right.
And I like the idea that officers have some discretion too, because there's, you gotta read the situation, so.
Right.
Following Emily's conversation, anything from the audience, anyone online that would like to, additional conversation? Any additional conversation from council? Ms. Smith, speak up.
Ask a question. Okay, these people, these people that are homeless or camping, and that, they're not gonna have $250,000, dollars to pay a fine. You can't get blood out of a turnip or a rock. So I just think warning or off you go. Leave it to the offices.
So you're trying to say, hey, just move them out anyway without even charging them anything?
I mean, there's no sense to bury them in a fine if they're not going to pay.
The only thing is, Maggie, we've got to have something in place for the officers to be able to move them out. And they have the discretion to not charge them, just give them a warning. But we've got to have something to give them the authority to be able to do something.
Yeah, I agree that.
Yeah.
You're not gonna get 250.
No, but
No.
but at least this gives them the authority to move. Yeah. Okay.
I believe that also acts as a deterrent. Because if we don't have that, a lot of people will say, oh, the worst that's going to happen to me is they're going to give me a warning.
Well, if they get,
A lot of people, I think. So
then they can send them to go to jail if they don't pay their fines. If they have a bunch of fines unpaid, eventually that's what's going to happen after you go to jail.
to get a history on them, yes.
If someone.
I just think with having that fine, that the judge can use that when something comes as, something that the judge can drop if they agree to treatment or agree to choose a different path in life, if there's an incentive that their fines will be dropped if they're, and that would help them to move forward, which is what we want.
Miss Dowdy.
So can we post signs saying no, like camping, a fine will be
You say
implemented, like?
ordinance number, whatever, and then.
Travis, do you want to touch on our sign policy that's been taken to the planning commission and?
So that would be covered under the sign ordinance as an exempt sign that can be posted by the Public Works Director at their discretion.
Okay.
And it'll say fines up to $250.
Okay, good.
Any other conversation?
Mr. Mayor, I would like our new chief, Gibbs, if there's any additional information or opinions even that you might have that the council hasn't reviewed or aware of, or your past experience. Nothing like talking to the man on the spot that's got the responsibility, and I'm very much for giving you the discretion from just saying, hey, get out of here, or haul him off to jail, depending on the circumstances. Is there anything else that we should be aware of? Because the thing we want to do is make your job easier, law and more enforceable, have less hate, discontent, and more security and calmness in our city.
Yeah, that's on a much larger level than Woodland. Unfortunately, the homeless problem it's a statewide issue. It's a countrywide issue, and we've been very fortunate in our small community that when our officers have seen, an outsider, whatever you want to call them, enter our town, we've made contact. We try to get their information, and we try to encourage them, to move along or ask them, hey, where are you headed? Offer them rides and that sort of thing. I think the ordinance like this is fair, and there is some discretionary, on the officer's part in there, whether we issue the fine or not. And then, I hate saying it, but making the arrest when it's necessary, because that is literally the gentleman this morning that we had dealt with Monday morning last week. Actually, I was in the Red Leaf drive-through by Walmart, and on my computer I see a police call pop up for an unwanted person sleeping on the front step of right in front of the door, blocking it. I drove over to contact him, woke him up. I offered him resources. I'd offer him a ride. He wanted nothing. He wanted to know how to get out of the rain. So I said, well, you can't be here. This is a business. You're blocking their entryway. Our officers have probably taken close to 10 calls for this one individual. And then today, finally, he did enough to cross the threshold that it was a crime. And that's unfortunate that that's where we are, but that's what we have to deal with. And, you know, that's why your tax dollars pay us too. It's not fun, but it's what we have to deal with.
I make a motion to approve action item H, ordinance number 1435, prohibit camping, first reading.
Second.
I have a first and I have a second over here from Douglas. Any other conversation before we take a vote? Fire away.
Councilmember Dowdy,
Aye.
Councilmember Hall,
Aye.
Councilmember Rounds,
Aye.
Councilmember Houston,
Aye.
Councilmember Frymark,
Aye.
Councilmember Friend.
Aye.
With that, the ayes have it. We will come back with a second reading next council meeting. Moving into action item I, authorize the mayor to sign emergency medical services interlocal cooperation agreement for 2025. You want to come on up, sir? Stand up. Give us your 2 bits here for a minute. I know we exchanged quite a bit of emails and things, so.
A little bit on that. So I'm Ben Bueller. I'm one of the assistant fire chiefs here with Clark County Fire Rescue. And what you have before you right now is we're trying to stabilize the EMS system, the transport, the ambulance system specifically. So City of Woodland, prior to Clark County Fire Rescue providing service, had a very mixed bag on ambulance transport on the ambulance side. When Clark County Fire came in, City of Woodland was able to roll into Clark County EMS District 2. So within Clark County EMS District 2 in the city of Vancouver, they do an RFP for an ambulance service every 10 years. They went out for RFP on it. AMR was awarded the agreement as they're going through negotiation. Part of the RFP was actually City of Vancouver coordinated, allowed it to be split between EMS 2 and City of Vancouver. City of Vancouver decided to exercise that option of doing their own contract. It was kind of a surprise to EMS 2. So who constitutes EMS 2? It's unincorporated Clark County, the cities of La Center, Woodland, Ridgefield, and Battleford. So that's what constitutes EMS District 2. So you guys are part of EMS District 2, and so City of Vancouver for the next year is going to extend, and we're all going to stay on the same status quo. So the ILA before you is allowing us to stay status quo for 1 year. So that's allowing EMS 2 at that point to decide what is the future for ambulance transport for EMS District 2. Cities control that. I recommend staying as a system right now because unfortunately City of Vancouver's decision, what they did is ultimately, we've all saw in the newspaper, Mayor included some cities being financial issues as City of Vancouver's probably the biggest culprit at the moment on that. But they just accepted essentially over $1 million that they're going to have to pay, that when we're together, when EMS 2 and Vancouver are together, there's no standby readiness fee in that contract. But because of that splitting, EMS 2 will ultimately probably a year from now have a fee, and City of Vancouver will have $1 million fee. The EMS 2 fee is projected around $750,000. So how does that get divided out between the 4 cities and unincorporated Clark County? Per call basis. So there's a lot of stuff over the next year that has to be worked out. The nice thing is, at least the action tonight stabilizes the system for a year. There's no readiness fee, there's no charge, and it gives us a year to build out what our next system looks like.
So it's business as usual for this next year.
That is
Okay.
what this agreement does. And
Okay.
one thing different, we've seen in the news a lot also, AMR, you see challenges in neighboring communities of AMR level 0, having no ambulances available, having delayed responses. One thing that's a real bummer in our neck of the woods is our entire area is considered a 20-minute zone. So AMR has 20 minutes to get to all of Clark County Fire Rescue. And that was based on population density set from 10 years ago. Well, today's density, City of Woodland's grown, La Center's grown, Ridgefield's grown, and if that same formula was used again, that was used 10 years ago, we would be in a 10-minute zone. But but they refused to change that, City of Vancouver. That was a unilateral decision on their part. So what they did on this contract, that's an exclusive AMR only contract, is now gonna allow Clark Hallett's at least first right refusal on our highest priority calls for ambulance transport. So, we had paramedics in every one of our fire engines. Every one of them didn't always have a paramedic on them. That's now on board. And we staff an ambulance 24/7 now, and comes out at our station right there at the, exit 14, Ridgefield exit, we have a fire station, that's our headquarters station. So on all priority 1 and 2, the highest medical priorities within CCFR, effective January 1st, we at least will have first right refusal to those, and we'll be able to cut that time significantly. So that is something else that isn't part of that agreement, is allowing CCFR to have that. So, and the other fire districts involved in this, didn't get that, so we were blessed to be able to negotiate and get that portion. Yes, sir.
Is the cost for AMR to do a call a lot more than what it would be for, say, you guys take the call, the ambulance?
If we transport or they transport starting January 1st, we agreed to have a mirrored rate schedule.
Okay.
Because something we didn't want to get into for that 1-year period where, say tomorrow you call, it's priority 3, the next day you call and it's a higher priority, priority 1 call. All of a sudden you're like, well, wait a second, why was the white ambulance twice as much as the red ambulance, or vice versa? We'll send the red one next time. Like, no, we want it based on people and service and ensuring that we're getting to the highest priority calls in the right order. So at least for 2025, our fee schedule for transporting and CCFR transports will mirror AMR, so great.
Very helpful, Ben. I mean, you and I exchanged some emails today even on this, and so I appreciate you coming and standing up. Any questions from the audience? I think this protects the city for another year. I mean, really, if we don't sign this, we're left high and dry.
Right.
So, and the cost is the same. So, anyway, questions or comments from council? Thank you again, Ben.
Make a motion to approve action item I, authorize the mayor to sign emergency medical services interlocal corporation agreement for 2025.
Second.
With that, Carrie?
Councilmember Friend,
Aye.
Councilmember Frymark,
Aye.
Councilmember Houston,
Aye.
Councilmember Dowdy,
Aye.
Councilmember Hall,
Aye.
and Councilmember Rounds.
Aye.
The ayes have it. It is now 8:33, and we will jump into a very brief workshop with Travis on Senate Bill 5290.
Brief.
You heard me, and he even looked at me when I said,
Looks good.
So this will be brief. It is just a heads up that I will be taking some language to the Planning Commission next month. The House bill in question is about local project review legislation that's meant to speed up the permitting of land use permits, and it will go into effect in January of 2025. And essentially, there is some reporting requirements that will not apply to us. We are such a small jurisdiction, we're not going to have to report to that. And it changes the permit timelines if there's no public notice to 65 days. If there is public notice, 100 days. And if there's a public notice and a hearing, to 170 days. Luckily for us, we are such a small jurisdiction and we have such good customer service that we are nowhere near that. As a matter of fact, our public hearings generally are within 60 days of application. So we are already exceeding the standards under the state code. So this is not really meant for us. There is a thing that might affect the city, and that is an applicant, if the city does not meet the deadline, an applicant can request a 10 to 20% refund. And to prevent that language, we would have to adopt 3 of 10 proposed process expediting. And I don't know whether you want me to go over those. I don't think we will have to ever worry about that refund, but we will be discussing that at the Planning Commission next month. If you want to see what those 10 are, I can also send you an email if you let me know at the office you want to see those.
Okay.
Oh, sorry, they are in the packet, section 160 or point 160. It lists all 10.
Didn't you send an email with just that information?
Can I?
I think you did.
He did.
Yep.
Okay.
He sent an email.
There was an email, just that.
Travis, just curious, so this doesn't change the criteria that we would use, it's just the processing timelines.
That is correct. It's an attempt by the state legislature to keep jurisdictions to a timely process.
And we would still meet that deadline in that process if we're able to combine and do some of those things.
I know Longview probably has fallen into that category. That's because I've heard some horror stories about permits and things for Longview.
Clark County is 100 times worse.
Oh, Clark County is too, so. So anyway, I think we're good, but it'll at least bring some of those companies or those counties in line, so. I think that's good.
I'm laughing here because what do I push with our employees? Customer service, customer service, customer service. Without the community, without the city, we don't have jobs and we're not needed. So we're all laughing over there because they're like, we know, Todd, that's what you keep telling us. And so, Travis and I had the same conversation today and wanted to make sure. So, yep, 100% agree.
I have a question just for clarity. Is this a legislative thing that happened in this past session, or is this a regulatory issue out of the Department of Commerce? How did we get this?
It's legislation that was passed in 2023. But the Department of Commerce is pointing out to local jurisdictions that it is applicable starting, it has to be implemented at the start of next year. We could do nothing, and the worst case scenario, I think, is we might be subject to a 10% or a 20% refund request if we ever don't meet deadlines. But realistically, we don't have much to worry about.
Yeah, so it's a Senate bill. So, yeah. Legislation. Any other questions on that? I mean, there's an impact to us if we don't hit our deadlines, but I don't see that happening.
I don't either. I think we do a good job at the city, so.
Yep.
I really do.
Blame them.
So, with that, any questions on workshop? The time is now 8:38 and we will leave workshop.
Motion to end meeting.
Second.
And with that is 8:38, meeting adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Trish, Carrie, thank you very much. Great job, you guys. What were you going to ask?
I don't know, I forgot.
I heard my team did very well. They were texting me.
Yeah, it is.
And I tried to get my flight
These are on
change and I ended
VHS
up
and I had
having
to
a
copy it on
7:05.
DVD.
Yeah.